Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. We'll wait for a couple of minutes for people to join. It is Saturday. Is it Saturday? It's Saturday. And we're going to have a very, very good session. You know, one of my areas that I really enjoy is teaching people how we need to take a systems approach to understanding what's going on. Because if we take a systems approach, which means we start understanding the interconnections among things, we can always come to truth. And the title of today's talk is really how fear and ignorance are the real bioweapon. That's what we're going to talk about. Anyway, good morning to Mukund from India. Good morning. But we're going to really talk about how fear and ignorance are the real bioweapon and how truth is really the ultimate destroyer of fear and ignorance. And that's what we're going to talk about today because, you know, the word bioweapon gets used a lot. Everyone tries to hype people up. Well, could this be a bioweapon or not? It may be, it may not be. But the reality is what we do know is that fear and ignorance are the real bioweapons. And if we can understand that, what's actually going on from a factual standpoint, from a scientific standpoint, we can overcome that. And we can get to the heart of what the real issue is, which is truth. And truth is ultimately what's going to heal us and really help us figure out what's the right way forward. So remember, I'm going to walk you through a certain set of slides, but I want everyone to get ready because this is going to be a very positive journey we're going to go through in the next couple of minutes so you can all get empowered on how we can really understand what the reality of what's going on. It's very, very important when I start these sessions that I really like to share with everyone what's going on in terms of from a factual standpoint and the context what's going on. So let me begin by sharing with everyone. Oops. There's Jen. Hey, Jen. So let me share with you guys my screen share. And when I do my screen share, for some reason, Jen's coming up. I'm not sure why. I guess, I have to add that to the screen. There we go. Okay. So let me start here. The title is, again, Fear and Ignorance, a Real Bioweapon, and Truth, Its Ultimate Destroyer. Let me begin by first sharing with everyone something that I always do at the beginning of all these talks. People know I'm running for United States Senate. So if you're in the United States, you should know that Massachusetts has 2 senators and also people from outside of the country. And I'm running for U.S. Senate, and the election is coming up, the primary in September of 2020 and the general election in November. But the entire basis of our running for U.S. Senate is based on this notion of truth, freedom, and health. And I'm from Bangladesh. People know that I'm an MIT PhD. You know, my PhD is in biological engineering. I have a bunch of degrees from MIT in the field of engineering. I'm also an inventor. I created the first email system in 1978. I'm a scientist and an innovator. And I'm running for U.S. Senate because I believe what's happened, particularly in the United States, is 60-70% of the people in the Senate are basically lawyers and lobbyists. And if you look at what's going on right now with this entire fear mongering, essentially you're seeing the weakness of a system when we start electing lawyers and lobbyists. And these lawyers and lobbyists essentially are incompetent. They don't know science. They don't know engineering. They don't know math. They don't know biology. And they were sleeping on the job while the WHO, the CDC, people like Fauci, the Gateses, the Clinton Foundation, the Zuckerbergs essentially got together to create this fear-mongering hoax with the hope of pushing on us mandated vaccines, suppressing dissent. The good news is someone like me who has all those credentials, who could see through the nonsense, was able to call out a guy like Fauci. Because of the educational background I have and I guess the credibility, people took what I said very seriously and went viral all over the internet. And we started the entire program called Fire Fauci. We're very close to getting about 100,000 signatures. So if everyone is online, take a moment right now to go to shivaforsenate.com. And what you'll see on that website is we have, if you scroll down, you'll see that we have this Fire Fauci campaign. But one of the most important things that I have that I want to offer everyone is people want to support the campaign. You could volunteer. But if you want to donate to the campaign, we're essentially telling people if you donate some money, we have a book that I call System and Revolution. Some of the stuff I'm going to share with you today, but we also have a very powerful tool, which I'll talk about, called Your Body, Your System. So everyone in the United States can support the campaign. Many of you outside of the United States have wanted to do that, and I'll tell you how you can do that. You can't support the campaign. It's only for US people. But by the way, one of the things we've done is we know that people right now in the US and everywhere are suffering. This was, I think we did it at $25. If people can't afford that, do whatever you can. And in fact, if you can't even afford 5 or 10, please email me at vashiva@vashiva.com, and I'll make sure that you get a full scholarship. So this is really not about money. It's really about educating people. But the tool, Your Body, Your System, comes from a lot of my research to really understand how you can explain the body as a system. So you'll learn a lot from this. So let's talk about the immune system. And those of you on Instagram, this should be going on YouTube, on Periscope, as well as on Facebook. So if you go to truthfreedomhealth.com, which is a website that we have, truthfreedomhealth.com, you'll see all my videos that are highly educational. It'll really teach you a lot about the immune system and the science of it. But today what I want to do is just go back to very, very simple, what I call first principles, very simple ways of really understanding this in a very simplified way, but in a very commonsensical way. So we're going to start with very simple principles, and I'm going to walk you through this in a very careful way and a simple way. But if you think about the immune system, and if you just step back and you consider it, fundamentally, the immune system is a complex system, and I'll give you some details of what that is. But in this complexity, what you'll see is that every system has an input. In fact, the entire basis of the systems health program I developed, which I used to teach at MIT, was teaching people how basic systems work. But every system has an input and every system has an output. Very simple, right? Now, in the case of the immune system, which is what I consider the operating system of who we are, there's various types of inputs we may experience, various types of triggers. We may experience viruses. We may experience stress from job or our loved ones, et cetera, pollution, pesticides, unemployment. We lose our jobs. That's an input. Family problems, fast food, aging. These are all inputs that come into our immune system. Okay, so consider those coming in. Now, the outputs, if you have a strong immune system, if your immune system is resilient and strong, which means it can handle those. So you see some of those people, right? No matter what happens in their lives, all sorts of stuff, they're always smiling, cheery, and happy, and they have a very positive outlook on life. And in fact, they never get sick. That's a resilient and strong immune system. And if you do that, you get health. The output is health. It doesn't matter what happens. Because of a resilient and strong immune system, you're always healthy. Not to say that everyone's perfect, but they relatively do better than people who, cave into those conditions. The other thing is you have a weakened immune system for all sorts of reasons. It could be pre-existing conditions. You smoke, there's obesity, some level of genetics. Maybe you weakened it, as we've talked about. If you eat a lot of, for example, high sugar diets, that knocks out your macrophages in your innate immune system. It knocks out your T cells in your adaptive. So you weaken your immune system. Well, in that case, you're going to end up with all different kinds of what we call diseases in Western medicine: heart disease, diabetes, kidney failure, Alzheimer's, insomnia, depression, anxiety. These are these manifestations, and these diseases ultimately manifest differently in different people. But fundamentally, your immune system is weakened. Okay? I hope that's clear. Now, what is this immune system? Many of you know that I'm considered one of the leading guys in the world on precision and personalized medicine. I've lectured at all the major universities, Harvard, institutions like the NIH, the Arthritis Foundation. But one of the recent events, about 4 months ago at the National Science Foundation, I was asked to give the distinguished lecture, the prestige lecture, on a modern view of the immune system. And, there's other videos I have, again, at truthfreedomhealth.com. You can go look at that. But one of the fundamental things that you find out about the immune system is that the immune system, which in the tool, remember I talked about Your Body, Your System, your immune system has a particular homeostasis at a particular place it likes to be. If you go to the site yourbodyyoursystem.com, there's a paper that I wrote several years ago after I finished my PhD at MIT in systems biology, went back to India for about 2 years, and I really wanted to understand the interconnections of Eastern medicine with Western engineering systems. And I made a huge discovery. What I found was that the Eastern systems of medicine, like Siddha and Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, have nothing to do with medicine. They're an application, but they're really an engineering system. And I wrote this cool paper. You can get it if you go to Your Body, Your System. In fact, you put your email address, it's free, you can get it. But one of the cool things when I got back was I built a tool. In fact, I built a whole course series called Systems Health. And I'll do a whole lecture on that at some point. But the things that I discovered were that whether you look at the Eastern systems of medicine or Western engineering systems theory, they're all based on three forces: transport, conversion, and storage. I'm not going to get into it today. Again, I'll do a separate lecture. But when you use the tool Your Body, Your System, which you get if you support the campaign, you can go directly if you're from outside of the country, you'll find out that you can answer a set of questions and you can find out your body's system type. So from an immune system standpoint, it's where your body likes to be when it's functioning well. So that's that red dot. If you answer a different set of questions, it figures out how you're disturbed or you're weakened from your homeostasis or your natural state. And then the tool lets you figure out how different foods, different inputs affect you. It's not a medical tool here. By no means. It's really a way to help you understand how the inputs of foods and exercise help you bring your body back to homeostasis to you. And in fact, if you go online and you look at that paper, which is free at Your Body, Your System, and it's a paper called The Control Systems Engineering Foundation of Traditional Indian Medicine, the Rosetta Stone, which really bridges Eastern and Western ways of looking. But fundamentally, the net I expose is that the Eastern systems of medicine, the terminology they use matches one-to-one with control systems engineering, okay? But that's really the foundations of how we can bridge East and West, but we can really start understanding the body from a systems perspective. So anyway, when you apply that kind of thinking, what you find, this is what I presented at the National Science Foundation, is that the body here, if you look at it carefully, is really an engineering system. And in this case, that engineering system tells us that the body contains multiple things working together to support our immune system. And I'll go through this for those of you who are interested. It includes the innate immune system. The innate immune system is that part of our system that faces everything in the environment coming in immediately through our eyes, through our nose, through our mucous membranes, etc. We also have the interferon system, which I did my PhD work on. It's a bridge between the stuff that occurs where first a virus hits and our body tries to defend itself using the innate immune system, using all sorts of different, militia to take it out. And there's the interferon system, which is quite an amazing system. It's expecting viruses to come and it creates interferons to block it. And then you have the adaptive immune system, which are like Navy SEALs, which try to take out the particular pathogen with what's called an antibody. But we also have this amazing gut microbiome and the virome, 60 trillion bacteria, 380 trillion viruses. And then we have the connection to our brain, our neural system. So this is a modern view of the immune system, which I presented at the National Science Foundation. The old model of the immune system was very rudimentary and is frankly the basis of creating vaccines, which the entire science is at best outdated, at worst it's a fake science. But this is really the modern view of the immune system, and it could contain more components also. So again, going back to common sense, when you look at the immune system, what you find is that these are the key elements that really are important to support the immune system. Number one is social interactions, healthy relationships with people. And I'll share the research, but it's been shown that the number one cause of longevity, people live long, they could smoke, they could drink. I'm not saying people should go abuse their bodies. It's if they have social relationships, if they have friendships, they laugh, they have people that they can trust. The second is, some type of exercise or work that people feel connected to. The third is people support their microbiome, their gut bacteria. It looks like many of these cultures where people live long, the third reason was some type of fermented foods. The fourth is obviously sleep, but also important in this is clean air, water, and food, the infrastructure that we live around. That's what creates a resilient and healthy immune system. All right. So this is something that's very, very basic, which sometimes people tend to forget in looking at all of this. What I want to share with you now is that I did a tweet this morning saying that there's been a 35% increase in the use of psychiatric drugs just in the period between February 15th to March 15th, that 30-day period, a 35% explosive increase, particularly of anti-anxiety drugs, antidepressants, etc. Why is that? Well, remember what I said, the number one reason that affects our health and well-being is social interactions. Throughout this entire quote unquote pandemic, we've quarantined people, we put people in homes, we've told people not to look at other people, stay 6 feet. That input to our system has been detrimental to a lot of people, okay? And that detriment is what we're going to look at right here. So, and this is data that just came out. So everything I share with you is up-to-date data. So let's look at it. So when you look at this data, let's go look at it right here. What you'll notice is this was a paper that just came out called America's State of Mind. And this paper really talks about what's going on in this country. In the front pages, it says, and remember, one of the people that I've been hitting very hard is a World Health Organization. The World Health Organization has been part of this entire fear-mongering. And what you're going to see shortly is the World Health Organization actually understands how bad depression is and it affects us. So they know this. They know it comes from social situations, unemployment, yet that wasn't accounted for in their equation when they decided to quarantine everyone, not take a personalized health approach where some people may be quarantined, but most of us should not be shut behind locked doors. We should be boosting our immune system. But you're going to see this is quite incredible that the World Health Organization, you'll see right here in the report, it says, in fact, the World Health Organization has identified depression as a leading cause. This is right off. This is a paper that was written, leading cause of poor health and disability worldwide. Depression is a leading cause of poor health and disability worldwide. And then, yesterday I was quite upset because the idiots at YouTube and at Facebook took down one of my posts, which is about vitamin C, and I got very angry, rightfully angry, as many of you did. And what I ended up saying was, maybe we need a revolution in this world, in this country. And for some reason, those posts mysteriously came back up. So maybe we put the fear of God into them. That's a good thing. But here, if they're observing, if YouTube or Facebook, I'm going to share with you some science. So I put in the references. This reference comes from, in fact, Google and Facebook's buddy called the World Health Organization. And what you see here, this is, if you go right to the World Health Organization site, which is referenced in this paper, there's a section in here on depression. And this is what the WHO itself says. It says globally more than 264 million people of all ages suffer from depression. Depression is a leading cause of disability worldwide. This is what's even more unfortunate. More women are affected by depression than men, and depression can lead to suicide. So that's right off the World Health Organization's site that they just put up. And it says a complex interaction of social, psychological, and biological factors cause depression. And the adverse life events include employment, bereavement, psychological trauma. So think about for people who've been isolated. Think about for the fact we just had a very close friend of ours. Her husband went into the hospital and she wasn't even able to see him. Think about that trauma that causes people. Think about the fact when 22 million people have applied for unemployment claims. This was not taken in by, frankly, very stupid people like Fauci and the incompetent people in Congress. Remember, these people don't know biology, they don't know math, they don't know physics, anything. Again, that's why I said I'm running for US Senate, because it's about time that people like us who actually are connected and who actually study real problems and have real solutions, not people who are going to let this kind of stuff occur again. But again, going back to this report, what you see very clearly stated here, and I'll make it a little bit bigger, very clearly stated here without any equivocation, is that even the WHO knows adverse effects like unemployment. Okay, so the WHO knows unemployment creates depression and it has detrimental effects. In fact, if you go into their document, it further says that, yes, you may have to give people antidepressants, but it also has adverse effects. So they know that depression is caused by things like unemployment and bereavement, by trauma, which is what's going on to a lot of people. And if you treat that with antidepressants, that will cause further harm to the body. Interesting enough, in the beginning of their document, they say at worst, depression can lead to suicide. Close to 800,000 people die from suicide each year. Suicide is the second leading cause of deaths in 15 to 29-year-olds. Now remember, there's the number of young people that have died from this is near zero, but the fear that's being imposed on young people is quite significant. And that's probably leading, as we'll see, many of them to get on anti-anxieties and antidepressants. So you're taking young people who can't really be hurt by this virus. In fact, the numbers are minuscule. Then you're imposing fear and social distancing, social isolation on them. And what is that doing to their bodies? Let's look at the data. And again, this paper just came out in 2020. And the paper goes on to say these conditions cause more days of lost work and work impairment than any other common chronic conditions, including diabetes, asthma, and arthritis. So think about that. What they're saying is that depression causes more harm to people, than any of the chronic conditions like diabetes, asthma, or arthritis. Just think about that. And the level of depression that's being caused by this, we can go to and look at very carefully here in this report. So let me go through here. And by the way, I went through the references. In one report they refer, I'm one of those guys who actually likes to go find out if the references are real. So when I was reading this report, there's about 100 references. So I went through all 100 references yesterday and today to really understand, are the references actually correct and accurate? So if we go to this reference over here, which is this particular paper called Mental Disorders Top the List of the Most Costly Conditions. And here's the paper out of Data Watch, and it says mental disorders top the list of the most costly conditions. And if you look at the graph here, what do you see here? The number one, the medical condition with the highest estimated spending is number one is mental disorders. And that includes civilians and large amounts of military personnel. There's veterans, people who've come back from war. They can't get jobs now. Many of them are barely surviving. We met one veteran at one of our volunteer events at Shiva for Senate. He was saying that he's got 3 kids and he makes around $18,000 a year. That's nothing. And he says he lives in a home with cockroaches falling down. This is in the United States. It's quite extraordinary. People are living under massive amounts of economic stress. And you can look at how high the depression is. This is in 2013, and the numbers haven't changed. And this is a second paper, which is the economic analysis. It says that the incremental economic burden of individuals with mental disorders rose by 21% from 173 billion to 210 billion. This is a very serious problem. So let's go look at that's the broad statistics and the data that including the WHO and the CDC, all these guys know the intense amount of effect that outside events have on people's depression, and the fact that depression causes other harm, worse than arthritis, diabetes, etc. And when you take antidepressant, it further hurts your immune system. This is all well known. And did they not think about this when they decided to do this thing to shutting down the global economy? It's quite extraordinary. And what you see here is, now I'm going to go into the actual mental health report from 2015 to 2019, and then show you what's been happening over the last 60 days. And this is what you see. What you see here is this is 2015 to 2019, there was a 15% rise, as you'll see here. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so everyone can see it. It's a little bit small. So you'll see there was a 15% rise here in antidepressant use during 2015 to 2019 broadly. 38% rise, 30% rise in antidepressant use among adolescents. Now, before the COVID crisis were going on, there was actually a 12% decline in benzodiazepines, as well as 11.3% decline in the use of sedative antihypnotics. That's a good thing. So less people are doing it. But now let's go look at what was going on with COVID. Now, this is the COVID and mental health issue. So we're going to really go into the facts of what happened when COVID-19 occurred. And we're going to look at the period, because the data just came out between mid-February to mid-March. We don't have the data from mid-March to April, but this is that data during that 30-day period. And it's quite extraordinary what you'll see here, what's going on. What you find is that during this period, it's been skyrocketing. Look at this curve here, February 15th to March 15th, a skyrocketing number of prescriptions filled per week for mental health medications. For depression is this blue line here, then The total is this line here, and you see anxiety is this explosive slope right here. So let's look at the data. So during this mid-February to mid-March of 2020, anti-anxiety medications rose 34%. 34%. Think about the heyday for Big Pharma. That's why I put out that tweet. This is an amazing big bumper crop for Big Pharma. Antidepressant use, 18.6%. Anti-insomnia drugs, 14.8%. That's what's occurred just in 30 days. That's quite, that's not in a year. If from an economic standpoint, imagine your interest rate grew that much. You'd be quite wealthy. This is in just 1 month. We're looking at 34% increase in anti-anxiety prescriptions, 18% in antidepressants, and 14.8%. We have a very close friend of ours, and our friend, his wife, he calls me up. He goes, Shiva, I have to tell you what's going on. My wife just relapsed into a major depression, and I didn't even know she ever had an issue. He goes, the last time this occurred to her was 40 years ago, and given when the social isolation took place, she can't go meet her friends. She can't go swimming. She can't do anything. She's gotten so depressed, and she's back on antidepressants. I obviously gave him some other natural therapies, ideas. Now, during the week of March 15th, that's when the WHO, declared a pandemic, and the US declared a national emergency. The use of antidepressants spiked another 18%. Within that week, it went above by 18%. And what's more interesting is that the increase in anti-anxiety medication use is higher in women, and this is my friend's wife, 39%, and then men is around 22%. So women are up to nearly 40%. So the numbers are actually worse for women. It's not 35, it's nearly 40% for women, use of antidepressants just during this 30-day period that we're talking about, and for men, 22%. So just think about that. What we're talking about is these are not good drugs. They're dangerous drugs with lots of side effects, and people have been feeling so bad that they've had to go on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, and anti-insomnia. So last week, again, if people go to truthfreedomhealth.com, for people who go to truthfreedomhealth.com, what you'll see is I presented a paper of a 1988 landmark study on social relationships and health. And this was one of the most profound studies, which really looked at how does social relationships affect our health. Remember, I've shared with you that the number one reason for many studies that people live long is about interconnection with people, being connected with people. And what this study found was the lack of social connections is more detrimental than obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. So just step back and think about that the lack of social connections, when you separate people, is worse than obesity, is worse than high blood pressure, and is worse than smoking. So think about that. So what have we been doing for the last 30, 60 days? We've been isolating people. And some people can handle it. Some people are sort of homebodies, but a vast majority of people actually like connecting with people. And when we've isolated them, we've seen explosive growth in the use of antidepressants. But in a fundamental scientific way, what we see here from this paper is that lack of social connection is greater detriment than obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. And this was a very interesting article which shared the work of Stephen Cole, which I'll talk about, Stephen W. Cole. And it was a summary of his article. It's a great title, Loneliness is a Molecule. And I'm going to walk you through this paper, but very simply put, the 1988 landmark study showed, among groups of people, how much social isolation affects people's, health effects. This paper was a profound paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which is considered one of the big journals. And in that paper, what Stephen Cole showed was that he took humans and he took monkeys, and they did social isolation experiments. And then he went down to the biological level, the area that I do a lot of research on with technologies that I created like Cytosolve. But at the molecular level, they looked at how genes express themselves in affecting anti-inflammatory molecules and antiviral molecules. And what he noticed was that the inflammatory molecules increase during social isolation and antiviral compounds go down. So you're basically opening yourself up to virus infection. Let me walk you through that. Again, this is a paper that was written recently, and the paper is called Myeloid Differentiation, Architecture of Leukocyte Transcriptome Dynamics and Perceived Social Isolation. Simply put, leukocytes are very, very important aspect of our immune system. And what the paper, the key point was, it says conserved transcriptional response, which to adversity, that's a term they use, CTRA, which is a phenomenon which describes an upregulated inflammatory gene expression and a downregulated antiviral response. In other words, they've established a link between loneliness and CTRA that shows lonely people have more inflammation and a less responsive immune system. Let me repeat that again. Lonely people, which means when you isolate people, they have established a link between loneliness and CTRA. CTRA is conserved transcriptional response to adversity. That basically says that exhibits itself when people upregulate inflammatory, when your gene expression, basically think about it, your body is in inflammation and you're reducing your antiviral response. And that's what social isolation does at the molecular level. Okay? That's what we're doing to people when we isolate them. They get depressed. They got to take antidepressants. But this is a wonderful paper, which I went over in a previous talk, that everyone can go through. But that's fundamentally what we're doing to people. We're actually hurting their bodies at the molecular level by isolating them and forcing them to go get on antidepressants. Megan Johnson says, Shiva's talks are always fascinating. I learn something every time. Thanks, Megan. So that's one of the most important things. So in summary, when you think about this, that lack of social connection is greater detriment than obesity, than smoking, than high blood pressure. And again, I'm not telling people to go get obese and smoke and get high blood pressure. And you have massive amounts of inflammation. And so you increase inflammation at the molecular level, as Stephen Cole's paper shows, and you have less responsive immune system. You lower your antiviral response, which means you open your body up to viral infections. So not only does social isolation, in this case, first of all, put your body into, for some people, into a depressive state. So you get depressed, and now we've seen this increase, 35% increase. I can go back to that. Let me just share that with everyone. So if some of you are joining, you'll see this. This curve is quite extraordinary here. Let me go back to it. Look at this curve. This is what social isolation and depression can lead to. People start taking anti-anxiety and anti-depression medications. It affects women differentially, nearly double. So you have 40% more women on anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication. And then on top of that, what we've learned here is social isolation actually lowers your immune system, opening you up to viral infection. So you got to really ask. And then the other piece here is that you have a 50% increased chance of longevity, right, with strong social connections. You strengthen your immune system when you have social connections, and genes impacted by loneliness code for immune function and inflammation, and it's easier to recover from diseases faster. So think about what they're doing. This friend of mine's husband was put in to the ICU. He died. This was about a couple of days ago. She couldn't even see him. This whole thing is nonsense. And as I've talked about, you don't give people vitamin C. You're not recommending people vitamin D. No one's talking about vitamin A. So you have these so-called experts not recommending people what's good to boost their immune system. And on top of it, doing detrimental things, isolating people, no vitamin D. And that isolation leads to all sorts of immune dysfunction, and people take antidepressant drugs. That's what's going on. And everyone listening, someone said everyone should share this video. Everyone should share this video. You should share this because this is showing the utter disgrace of the entire deep state medical establishment. And the WHO knows this. And people around the president, people around Prime Minister of India are not advising them properly, because what we're talking about is actually using this quote unquote pandemic to create worse ill health. How can this be good? How can this be good? And why is it that there's only one biological engineer in the world like me, and why is everyone being quiet? And that will lead you to a much more fundamental issue, is that the entire academic establishment, the medical establishment, is bought and paid for. when the facts are out there and you have no one articulating this on a broad scale. Fortunately, we have us, and you guys are making this go viral. And that's what we need to do. We need to let the world know what is actually going on. That what they actually want to do is to create unhealthy people. That's the goal, because more unhealthy people, more big pharma, more mandated vaccines. And I want to show you the cycle of this ill health. So getting back, if we really look at this, if you want a healthy body, you want to create a resilient and strong immune system. Everyone agree? That's what we want to do. We want to create a strong and resilient immune system. So viruses come, stress comes, pollution comes. Obviously, we want to limit those, because those can actually affect resilience, but you're able to take it and you get stronger. You become a strong human being. That's healthy. Well, if you're a weakened immune system, then you're going to get all these diseases. By the way, in my view, from a system science standpoint, diseases are a manifestation of something deeper, which is dysfunction of the immune system. Someone may get heart disease, someone else may get Parkinson's. Western medicine loves to put things into little buckets because then they can figure out particular drugs to give you. But at the core of it, it's your immune system being weakened. So let's talk about data. What I wanted to do in finishing up this talk is I wanted to put this in perspective. So now, in summary, you understand from a systems perspective, we have a very complex immune system. It's boosting that immune system, which I keep emphasizing, and everyone should share these videos so people get that. And again, if you go to truthfreedomhealth.com, everyone asks me, Dr. Shiva, where can I find your videos? They're at truthfreedomhealth.com. You can go there. Our team, by the way, has done a great job in reorganizing them so you can see all the videos in one page. But we've talked about the system. We've talked about that you yourself can use a tool like I built called Your Body, Your System to understand your body, its homeostasis and how it differs from it. And then what we just went through is that social isolation, disconnection from others, how much it affects our immune system. We're seeing it, that people, how much it affects depression, that people are actually going out and taking more and more drugs. So let's go back and look at some data here. When you look at the data here, what do you see? By the way, you see, this is, so I wanted to put this in the context of deaths and to show you the level of nonsense that's taking place. I'm a math guy. When you go to MIT, you have to be really pretty good at math, but this math, everyone can understand. So annually in the United States, we have about 2.9 million deaths, okay? Monthly, it translates to around 220 deaths in the summertime months, and about 280,000 deaths, that's monthly during the winter time, okay? So if you look at perhaps from, the winter period, let's say in the US from around, let's say October to like March, you're around 280,000 deaths. And then let's say from April to probably like September, you have 220,000 deaths, okay? So that's the number of monthly deaths. Now, look at this interesting data that just came out. What you see here, let me walk you through this. This graph over here, what it's sharing with you is, so in 2018, in March of 2018, we had around 249,000 deaths, okay? March of 2018, 249,000 deaths. Well, in March of 2019, we have around 253,000 deaths. So in the same month, in March of 2018, and you compare it to the same month in March of 2019, you have about 4,000 deaths more. So the number of deaths in March of 2019 went up. Why am I bringing this up? We don't have the data yet for March of 2020, but we already know for March of 2020, there were around 4,000, the actual number is 53 COVID deaths. Interesting enough, that's around 4,000 more. So if the deaths are around the same, it's a part of the total number of deaths that would have occurred anyway. I hope people are following what I'm saying. So if you had 49,000 deaths in March of 2018, in March of 2019, we had a little bit more, 4,000 more deaths. Well, in March of 2018, if you believe this data, remember they're putting everyone under COVID. Remember, one of the things I want to share is a number of my friends who are doctors. They told me what happens. The hospitals are incentivized. The hospitals are being incentivized to put COVID, to brand people as COVID. Why? Because if you don't have insurance, or if you have a copay or have a deductible, when you go to the hospital and you have the quote unquote symptoms of COVID, the hospital has to take you, and then they have to do all this rigmarole to get the money paid by the insurance company. That's on the hospital side or the doctors. So if you go in and they say, well, I think you got COVID, and they put you at COVID, guess what? The government is paying that full payment. So there's a big incentive to put you in as COVID-19. And the codes that they've set up, one is a code where you did the test. And then, by the way, the test in many ways will lead false positives. And even the creator of that test, Terry Mullis, said the test is a qualitative test. It's called the DNA PCR test. And then there's another code that they have, which is sort of a nebulous code. But bottom line, the hospitals are motivated. They get money faster and quicker by giving you that COVID-19 stamp in their diagnosis codes. And this is just a simple fact. Everyone should go check it. But here, we already have about 4,000 deaths. So imagine that we had 2,053 deaths. Let's assume that's the number we have. Well, that'll be hidden. If we have more than that, let's say we have 257,000, 4,000 more, that COVID contributed to that. Well, in the worst case, that would be, so basically, again, March of 2018 to 2019, we saw a 4,000 increase from 2018 to 2019. So COVID deaths we know are 4,053. So if this is a part of that, it's a rounding error that we say in math. It's 1.6%. Is 1.6% increase? Let's assume it did increase. Let's say it turns out that the number of deaths in 2020 is 4,000 plus. Let's say it's 257,000. That's about a 1.6% increase. Is a 1.6% increase in deaths the basis of shutting down the entire economy? Now, the other question you have to ask yourself, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Vinay Julapalli, and we were saying, why is New Jersey and New York so much higher? I mean, New Jersey's got almost 20,000 deaths. Well, is it perhaps because that's in the city? The entire state of Texas, I believe, only had around 600 to 700 deaths. So the entire state of Texas, but one city has 20,000. Is it perhaps because of their ineptitude? Is it perhaps because the hospitals are corrupt? Is it perhaps because of Governor Cuomo and the total corruption of these cities? That's never discussed. But what we do know is that this is relatively a rounding error. It's a rounding error in what's taking place, particularly if you look at March. So what I want to leave people with, I'm sorry, I didn't share this here. So if you look back at this, and let me go deeper here. Sorry about that. So if you look at the numbers here, this is relatively a rounding error. If 4,053, if we look at the March data, and if you look at 253,000 people died, or even if we look at 257,000 people, it's a rounding error. So was 1.6% of people increase in dying, if we even assume that's not even embedded in that, if we give it to them that they didn't lie to us, is that the basis for shutting down an entire economy? And I would argue it isn't. And let me give you sort of this cyclical curve that I put out here. It's called the deep state cycle of fear and ignorance. So what have they done? First of all, they created fear mongering. Okay. They put out this massive amount of fear that this thing is going to kill everyone. And remember, as I keep saying, the fear mongering was based on fake science by this guy, Fauci. Fake science by Fauci, where he said, and remember, this guy did the same thing with HIV, saying HIV causes AIDS when there's no causal proof of that. So here is this guy, Fauci, who's convinced everyone with the World Health Organization, the CDC, the Gateses, who we've hammered really hard, and Clinton. Remember, I've been very, very critical of people like this guy Kennedy, who attacks Gates, but he doesn't say anything about the Clintons, who in the Clinton Global Initiative and the Gates Foundation are like this. They want to mandate vaccines. Remember the big game here: mandate vaccines, mandate vaccines, mandate vaccines. Have all of us be vaccinated. And in order to do that, they have to create this massive fear mongering. That's what this is about. So if you look at this cycle of fear and ignorance, fear mongering, and what this fear mongering does, it basically, leads to social isolation and unemployment. In the United States, 22 million people have filed unemployment claims. And people have been socially isolated. Well, we know this from the WHO itself will lead to anxiety and depression. So that means they know this. Isn't this a beautiful thing? WHO is involved in fear mongering, which has led to now social isolation and unemployment. And this leads to anxiety and depression. And we know what that does. This leads to the use of all of these drugs, which we've just seen compromises your immune system. You're socially isolated and you're taking drugs. Well, what does this lead to? Well, this leads to more death and disease, which means they can use this as a basis of fear mongering. So fear mongering, social isolation and unemployment, more anxiety and depression. Pharma makes money here, immunosuppression, disease and deaths. Now you convince people you need to get vaccines. And this is a cycle of fear and ignorance. Just think about that. Just look at that cycle there and think about what's going on. We're talking about, in the period of March, a minuscule fraction of the total number of deaths that take place. And based on that, based on the simple bullshit math, they've shut down the entire economy, fear-mongered us. But no one is talking about boosting the immune system, which is what this is fundamentally about. We need to boost the immune system because we need to have resilient bodies. But instead, they've got us into this fear-mongering, and everyone should share this. We need to get our people out of fear. People need to stop being afraid because we're playing into the deep state cycle of fear and ignorance. And the truth I've shared here today is really the ultimate destroyer. And what is that truth? We need to boost our immune systems, because this cycle of fear-mongering, social isolation, and unemployment leads to anxiety and depression. This leads actually to violence. There's a bunch of reports that are out there now, but it leads to immunosuppression, which leads to disease and death, etc. I hope this is, this knowledge is going to empower you to get out of this cycle of fear and being, manipulated. The other piece I want to share with you here is, if you really look at it, I've talked about the fact, and I've been pushing the fact that I've decided to run for US Senate, because ultimately what really boosts our health in many ways is infrastructure, our personal infrastructure, where we strengthen our immune system by food, lifestyle, and social connections. That's our personal infrastructure. That's where freedom comes in, our ability to do that, what foods we choose, what kind of lifestyle we want, not being imposed top-down medicine by the state saying everyone should get these vaccines. Everyone needs to go on antidepressants. This is great for Big Pharma and Fauci and Gates and Hillary Clinton, all those people, and social connections. And externally, we need clean air, clean water, and clean food. But fundamentally, the politicians, the lawyer lobbyists that I know in the United States who are incompetent, who slept on their job and let all of this take place, they're destroying the entire infrastructure in this country. The United States got a D+ in infrastructure by the American Society of Civil Engineers, which means bridges are falling apart, roads are not working, water systems are failing. You can't get clean air, clean water, and clean food when infrastructure is breaking. Because when a bridge starts seeping into the groundwater, that hurts our infrastructure. So the politicians, and by the way, in Massachusetts got an F-. So those of you listening overseas, you can get an A in school, you can get a B, C. You have to work. You have to be really not want to work to even get a C or a D. To get an F, you really have to do nothing. To get an F-, that's really bad. Now to get an F-, that's what Massachusetts got, the home to MIT and Harvard. Massachusetts got an F- in infrastructure, 123 points out of 350. And this was by the well-recognized American Society of Civil Engineers. That's what Massachusetts got. And Massachusetts got a D+ in corruption. I mean, in Massachusetts, as you know, I'm an MIT PhD, a scientist, an inventor. I've created jobs. I do videos to educate people. I'm having to run against 3 stupid lawyers, 3 lawyer lobbyists. One of them is a guy called Malarkey. He's been in there for 40, 50 years, a politician, done nothing. The other guy is Joe Kennedy, which is Bobby Kennedy's nephew, who wants vaccine mandates, who Bobby Kennedy raised money for. Bobby Kennedy's a lawyer. His nephew's a lawyer. And then there's some other dope I got to run against in the Republican establishment. I'm running as a Republican, but remember, I do not care about both establishment parties. But the opportunity we have is that's how we get to health. We need people who support, who recognize it's strengthening our immune system. And that's what is important. That's why all these videos are going viral, because this is common sense. You already know this. I just happen to be a catalyst, which is giving you the truth here so you can go challenge and get strong and overcome this fear and ignorance. That's what we need to do right now. And in closing, and we'll take some questions, everyone should recognize that our campaign for US Senate in Massachusetts is an extraordinary campaign. It's become a worldwide campaign. We have everyone watching us. You look at the principles we're running on: truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. And why do we say truth, freedom, and health? Without freedom to discourse and debate and argue, we're not going to get to truth. We're going to get to scientific consensus. We need to practice the scientific method. Everything I've shared here today actually comes from reference studies by others. I'm just, as a systems guy, putting it together and articulating it so it's accessible, because many of you are busy, you have other things going on, but fortunately we can have this interaction. I've also shared with you at the genetic level how social isolation depresses the immune system, increases in inflammatory molecules. I've shared with you actual data which actually shows that we've seen an explosive rise in antidepressants. So what does this mean? This is phenomenal for big pharma, teeing us up for greater fear and putting us into that fear cycle. The way out of it is to recognize that we need freedom to get to truth. And with truth, we can take care of our bodies, which means we boost the immune system. And when we get healthy bodies, we fight for freedom. That's why I can't overemphasize to all of you who've supported the campaign, let more people know we must win this campaign in Massachusetts for US Senate. Let me tell you why. Because Massachusetts, when you look at the entire United States, Massachusetts has the two of the biggest institutions, MIT and Harvard, MIT and Harvard, MIT and Harvard, within a 1 mile radius. And I would argue that is the center of the deep state. And both the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment work together. They do not want to see people like me or you winning. That's why we must win in Massachusetts, because a guy like me winning and being in the US Senate for 6 years will be one of the biggest nightmares to the deep state, and it'll be a big victory for all of us. So if you're outside of Massachusetts, let everyone know in Massachusetts they should support our campaign. And if you're outside, make sure you start understanding how the body is a system. Those of you who are inside Massachusetts or inside the United States, let everyone know about our campaign. And again, those of you who support the campaign, I wrote an amazing book called System and Revolution, and this was really a labor of love. This book is a small book. Anyone can read it. It'll take you a couple of hours, but it's a complete aggregation of my work at MIT, my work in integrating Eastern and Western medicine, and you will learn in very simple ways a whole new language to understand any system in the universe, your computer, your thermostat, your body. And then you also have this very powerful tool that I created. I want everyone to take advantage of. By the way, if you can't give 5 or 10, if you can't do 25, it'd be great. Write me an email, vashiva@vashiva.com, and I will figure out a way to give you a scholarship. And then please take advantage of your body, your system. Figure out what kind of system you are. Figure out how your body can get disturbed from its homeostasis, and figure out the power of foods and things to bring you back to who you are. The other piece is we have a petition out there called Fire Fauci. Someone just wanted me to put it out there. If you go to Shiva for Senate, you will see there's a petition out there. In fact, I'll stop and I'll bring it back up if people want to see it. Let me go right to the website, shivaforsenate.com, because a lot of people are asking for that. And by the way, many of you know, I unleashed this entire attack on Fire Fauci, went like wildfire all over the world. And then you had people who are the not so obvious establishment trying to copy it and mollify it. But the original version of this, which is almost up to 100,000, let's look at what it's up to, is up on the website. Let me take you there. Go right here for you guys. And so if you go here, let's share it here. If you go right to the website and you go to take action right here, you will see there's a petition to fire Fauci. And this petition now, we're close to, I think we're, let's see where we're at. Okay, we're at 88,000. Wow, we only need 11,000 more. So everyone go to Fire Fauci. You could go to 2 ways. You can go to the website right here. Let me close this so you can see this better. And if you go to the website right here, shivaforsenate.com, and you scroll down, you'll see this thing where we have one of the take action things. And this is a Fire Fauci petition. And you can go right there. And here's hashtag Fire Fauci. and it's what we want to fire him for. And we're at 88,541. Let's see if people are going there right now. Everyone go to the site. And if you, another way to get there is you can go to Take Action and you can go to Petition Fire Fauci. There's two ways to get there. Right on Take Action, Fire Fauci, and there it is. And let's see if people are coming in there. So we're at 88,543. And as you sign, the counter will increment itself. Okay? So let's come back here. So that is what's up for today. But let me finish by saying that the U.S. Senate campaign in Massachusetts is an extraordinary campaign. It's bringing together so many people. We've unleashed, not only globally, people are watching this within the state, and then we have so many people rising up below on the ground. September, again, is a primary election. November is a general election. We have to win the Republican nomination. So I'll be telling you what you guys can do to help. But let's take some questions. Jen, if you have any questions, you can put them up. And let me see on Instagram how people are doing. Let's see, how much is too much vitamin D? Yeah, so we'll take that question. After listening to you, I can sleep soundly. Signed and donated. Great. Wake up strong and ready to fight. Awesome. So let me look. There are people so afraid. I hope this talk has encouraged you to realize if you take the sword of truth up, you realize that this entire thing is based on fear mongering. When you actually look at the data in March, 4,000 people dead from, we think this, but it's a fraction of how many people die in the whole month of March. Great. Bugs Doe says, just sign it. Awesome. Fantastic, Bugs. Everyone go up there and sign this petition and let's get this guy out of here, okay? Because getting Fauci out is not just about Fauci, it's something more. It's about sending a signal that we as people, by the way, it just went up by 200. Look at this. Let me put this up there. It's quite extraordinary. This thing is going up. So you can see it just went up by, let me make it a little bit bigger. Since we've spoken, it's gone up by 200 signatures. It's fantastic. Fantastic. I may zoom in on it so people can see it a little bit better. There, people can see it there. We'll keep it over there. And there you go, 88,000 signatures. Is ester C the best vitamin C? So let's take some questions here. Mark Anthony, awesome. Well, look, first of all, vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Now, if you research it, I encourage everyone to start researching. There's so much amazing stuff out there on PubMed. The number one way to get vitamin C, in my opinion, you can take it with supplements, given some of us don't have time to eat all the food. Amla, AMLA, is an Indian gooseberry, high dosage of vitamin C in there. You can obviously get it from citrus fruits. If you're going to take the supplements, if you can get the ascorbic acid combined with the what are called the bioflavonoids, that's very valuable. It makes it more absorbable. Someone said, I have conditions that I gave up on doctors to find the root of it all and get me well. It started with B12 deficiency, and after 3 years and at least 10 doctors, I diagnosed myself. Then through a medical book, a doctor's desk, and refused to leave it till I was tested for the levels to find out. Our next day, my level was 215. Now I'm diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease and on 120 milligrams thyroid, and as well got Lyme disease. What can I do to feel normal and function? Look, you should, first of all, there's so many great healthcare practitioners, particularly the naturopathic doctors, people who know herbs, etc. One of the things is if you take B12 and you study it from, again, an engineering system standpoint. Look, let me just be clear. There's a lot of very good doctors out there, but many of them get screwed over by the big pharma medical education. They don't understand the body as a system. That's why MIT in 2003 created the field of biological engineering to understand the body as a system. But what you understand is the gut microbiome is extremely important for creating B12. Many traditional cultures knew this. So that's why the fermented foods are very, very good for gut microbiome health and B12 production. So if you are having B12 issues, obviously you can take the B12 supplement, but also consider looking at how do you beef up your gut microbiome. Remember I said there's 3 things that they found out why many cultures live long. One was social interactions. The second was some type of exercise, meaningful work. And the third was they all drank, it appears, some type of fermented drink or had fermented products, local. All right, not something coming from 20,000 miles away. So that's something you should consider that can really boost up When you have thyroid issues, you should have your doctor check your TSH levels. And much of that can be supported by, there are glandulars people should look at that could be very valuable, but also, iodine and iodide. In the letter that I wrote to the president, I recommended that, based on your level that you were at, vitamin A, vitamin D, but also the iodine and the iodide, which support thyroid, which makes sure your body creates vitamin A. So those are things I would look at. What do you advise people that have asthma? Look, the asthma levels, the issues with asthma in many ways is a reaction, right? It's an allergic reaction that takes place. One of the areas that people have found some profound work is when people start, again, supporting the immune system, particularly something called glutathione, Glutathione. Glutathione is one of the most important antioxidants. As you age, glutathione levels drop. And if we live in polluted environments, our body is going oxidative stress, and it uses up its glutathione levels. I'll do a talk shortly talking about even with plants. Plants also get oxidative stress because of pollution, and we'll talk about that. Yes, everyone should sign Fire Fauci, someone just said. Let's see where we're at there. Yes, please go sign Fire Fauci. We got to get this guy out. It's 88,600. Where are we at? Well, another 100 we went up. Okay. Wonder if we should stay up all night until we fire Fauci. What do you guys think? We could do a marathon to get him off. In your opinion, what, if any, vaccines are safe and are recommended? That's Dominic Madden. Okay. I gave a talk, we may stream it again, called Beyond Vax, Anti-Vax. And what I talked about, it's not about vaccines or anti-vaccines. Let's just step back. What was a vaccine? Well, a vaccine came from a method called variolation, which has been around for thousands of years, where people used to, in African culture, when someone in, let's say, the village got a disease, they would actually make a little incision in people's forearm here and put the entire pus of the actual disease. So people have known that if someone has something, for that village to not everyone getting sick at different points, you actually transfer the disease to people proactively. So you beefed up the immune system. There's cultures, and this is going to sound disgusting to some people, that they drink a little bit of the urine, because the urine is where first, this is a thesis, that viruses and bacteria show up, and you're basically letting your adaptive, and you drink a little bit of it to let your adaptive immune system know what's coming. May seem disgusting. Animals do it all the time. They're always sniffing each other. There's a reason that they're doing that. They're letting the immune system know what could be coming to turn on your immune system. So this is the entire basis of the Western medicine approach to the immune system, which is wrong. When you really think about it, the goal is to beef up your immune system. Just like you go lift weights, it's good to take on some of those stressors. Now, the alternative is, imagine if someone has been living in an environment like a completely closed bubble. Let's say some parents bring up their kids with everything is antibacterial. Well, that kid may be so unable to ever handle anything, he may need to be titrated some of those, quote unquote, not vaccines, but be slowly introduces to those allergens so his body doesn't freak out. So it's not about vaccines or not vaccines. It's about what is the state of your immune system. I have lupus. What can you advise me to do on feeling better? Well, look, we just did some very cool research using my technology Cytosolve, where we modeled the mechanisms of lupus. Some of the extraordinary research around lupus is clearly showing, obviously it's an autoimmune disorder. And when you have these kinds of autoimmune disorders, one of the areas that we need to really look at is the gut microbiome and the virome. A very interesting set of papers came out, research showing that when people were exposed, in fact, a friend of mine had lupus, and very interesting set of events occurred. He went to India and actually got parasites there. He comes back to the United States, all of his lupus is gone. And there's a whole set of theory which shows that certain of these things we call parasites actually can turn on other molecular pathways. So what I'm sharing with you is that one of the areas you may want to go look at is your gut microbiome again. And there's some very good people out there who can, if you research this, who can help you with that. But the angle that I can send you is the gut microbiome and looking at beefing up the immune system, with some of the stuff I put out there. What else do we have? Okay, anything over here on, yes, the gut microbiome is very, very important. Shiva for president. What are your thoughts on wearing masks? How about eczema? I'm breastfeeding my baby, protected from the vaccines I received. My leg nerve started pinning, and I had insect fang like by tumor, like a lot of people. Raw garlic is also good. What's good to treat the gut? Okay, let's look. There are so many exogenous things that can take place in many, many cultures. If you go back to basic principles, let's go back to basic stuff. Someone's asking about mold. Look, in certain systems of medicine, mold or infections were always concerned to come from dampness. In the Indian system, they would call it kapha, or when you have dampness, water, if you think about a basement that's moldy. So many of these infections and mold infections can your body basically starts reacting to these molds. Again, one of the most powerful things that you can leverage is vitamin D. Vitamin D is powerful for supporting, it's an antimicrobial. So, the sauna, if you're getting mold and those kinds of things, the sun, the heat of the sun is very, very good for this. But more importantly, the vitamin D in that creates the cathelicidins, which really starts supporting the ability for your body itself to take out the microbes that are, not beneficial to you. But vitamin D is one of the most important things that people should consider as a baseline. The other thing that people may want to recognize, I think the previous person, when you're looking at B12, again, this is from a system standpoint. B12 deficiency typically comes from, it's going to be very interesting, if you don't have enough HCl in your body, hydrochloric acid. As you age, your HCl levels go down. Your body doesn't produce enough acid to digest the food like a nuclear reactor. And so you're not extracting enough nutrients, and then you have B12 issues. So again, it really comes down to that gut. What do you think about year-round allergies associated with severe headaches, doctor? Look, what is an allergy? An allergy is your body overreacting to a particular situation. One of the recent research papers we just finished, we did some work with the City of Hope. And an interesting thing is when people get organ transplants, right? God forbid someone has to get it. But if someone gets an organ transplant, your own body, reacts. Your own body is reacting against this foreign object coming in, and it overreacts. Well, one of the ways that people found interesting was when organ transplants were taking place, people who were drinking green tea, it's very interesting, were having less transplant rejection, which means the body was able to modulate the immune system. And that's what we want to do here. You want your immune system to work when it should work. And you hurt yourself, you want white blood cells to go there, you want inflammation. But in the normal case, if your body's overreacting, that means that you're not modulating your immune system. So what we found out using our technology Cytosolve, I could share that if you guys are interested in it, not today, but another day. It turns out there are certain substances in green tea which actually modulate your immune system in a good way. So when you're looking at allergens and these things, start looking at immunomodulators. Start doing research on that. I may do a whole talk on that. What are the things that modulate your immune system? Let me see how we're doing here. We were at 88,500 and now we're up to 88,800. We may hit 89,000. Okay. Keep going, everyone. Everyone go to Fire Fauci. Thank you for all you do, Dr. Shiva, an inspiration. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Great. Look, one of the things, if people go to this website, let me point it over here. By the way, thanks, Jen Bennett, for helping us. So if you go here, if you go right here, one of the things we've done at Shiva for Senate, let me go back here, is part of what I wanted to do is almost create a little university for you. So there's right here, there's a thing called Truth, Freedom, and Health. So if you click on Truth, Freedom, and Health, I've put all the videos that most of you enjoy up here. The coronavirus time for truth. All of the videos are up here at Truth, Freedom, and Health. So I hope everyone takes advantage of them. And it's video after video after video. It's almost like a little learning university. So feel free to share all those videos. This is for you. And as you know, one of my real intentions here is that we need to get truth out there. We need to empower people. So use those videos where you can learn, you can teach others, and then you can serve others by letting them sharing. So just get them out there. Always, you're welcome to put them out there as much as you want. During this pandemic, what do you recommend we do to fight this and stand for our rights? We're being herded like cows at the store, covered with chemicals everywhere that harms those who have MCS. But what is most important thing we can do to get our country back from these evil people? That's from Jessica McCullough. Jessica, that's an excellent question. The number one thing, Jen, if you can just take away that thing so people can see my face. Thanks. Anyway, we have Jen Bennett, who's amazing mother. She's up in Vermont. Jen's essentially my right hand here, helping me in so many ways. But thanks, Jen. But look, the most important thing we can do is what we're doing right now. People need to get educated, and share that education. We need to bring down the fear. That's why I titled this talk today, "Fear and Ignorance are the Ultimate Bioweapon." That's what we need to understand. Fear and ignorance are the ultimate bioweapon. And that's what we need to talk about. So how do we bring down that fear and ignorance? Well, we bring it up with truth. And that's what we're doing here. So Jessica, the number one thing people can do to eliminate that fear and ignorance with truth, and that truth is understanding that we need to boost up our immune systems, personally plus around us. That's why, the politicians who don't take care of our air, who don't take care of our water, who don't take care of our infrastructure, we need to get rid of all of them. Those are the two things people can do. Become aware that we can control what we put into our mouth. But we can't do that if we have a bunch of corrupt people destroying the world around us. So it's both personal infrastructure and the environmental infrastructure. Fight together. Nationwide protest plan May 1. Find your local group here. All right. That's fantastic, Shannon. Fantastic. We should have massive protests everywhere. May 1 is an important day because May 1st was International Workers' Day. Now, it's been made into quote unquote a Marxist holiday, but it isn't. It actually started in America in the 1800s when the American working class rose up, and you know what they wanted? Infrastructure. They wanted clean air, clean water, and clean food. They wanted the ending of child labor. They wanted nutrition. They wanted sanitation. That's what started in the late 1800s. 3 workers in the Haymarket riots were shot, and in commemoration of them, it was called May Day. And in the United States, they got rid of May Day because they branded everything as communist, when in fact, this was the American working people. So I think May 1, Shannon, I'll be out somewhere, but we should raise massive hell of what's going on, particularly against the censorship from companies like Google and Facebook. My sister manages a hospital in North Carolina. She has little, if any, COVID patients. Nevertheless, she has drunk the Kool-Aid, and I can't even interject anything reasonable to her. She uses the "I work in the hospital" card always, straining our relationship. Actually, what could I say to her to open her mind to a second opinion? That's Rob Ryan. Look, Rob, I think the main thing is share this video with her. Share her with that cycle. Share with her. I think the most important thing you can tell her is look at the data. Look at the data. And remember, the data is 4,000 deaths in March, a fraction of the number of people who died. So that's one piece of data. And is that the basis for creating this much fear? The second piece of data is that we need to share with your sister, what about boosting the immune system? What about boosting the immune system? And you may want to ask her, why is it for critical care patients in the ICU, they're not giving vitamin C? I would ask her questions. Let her start thinking about this. But one of the most important things that people get is, wait a minute, the immune system, the immune system, the immune system. Because we know that when you support the immune system, you can handle it. I would also ask her, how many of those people had pre-existing conditions? What was their age? In Massachusetts, by the way, the average age, listen to this, of someone dying from quote unquote COVID-19 is 82 years old. Do you know what the life expectancy in Massachusetts is? 80.5 years old. So it's 80.5 years old is the life expectancy of someone, and the average age of someone dying from COVID is 82. Now its average is 82. That means some people have got to be like 89 and the other people have to be, maybe 70. You see, it's a very tight, narrow window. So that's why I'm saying that's what you should ask her. Go look at the data. And we should also talk about why is it New Jersey and New York is so high? Why is it so high? Is it COVID, or is it that the corruption and the destruction of this hospital infrastructures where nothing's been invested, and basically big hospitals are taking people's money as much as they can, and we're never prepared for something like this? All right. It is 12:12. Hi from Australia. Good to have the Aussies there. What else do we have? Anything else, Jen? I would rather listen and learn from Dr. Shiva than take any of the 63 free online courses. Yeah, look, Harvard wants to get rid of homeschooling. There's a woman who's actively promoting we should get rid of homeschooling. Someone said, can you overdose on vitamin D? Look, the recommendation I gave to the president for a short period of time was 50,000 IUs of vitamin D in a 24-hour period. Now, if you're taking vitamin D, it's important to make sure you have enough green leafy vegetables. But it's frankly very difficult to overdose on it. And remember, when I told the president high dose vitamin D, I'm talking about stress-like conditions, stress conditions, just like the high dose vitamin C is when you're under massive stress. You don't do that when you're not under that stress. It's an input-output model. However, for the average individual, I take typically 5,000 to 10,000 IUs. Now, if you're out in the sun and you live in the sun, you probably don't need any of this. That's the ideal way to get it 15 to 20 minutes in the nice rays. You get the UVB radiation and your body modulates it. But 5,000 to 10,000 in winter months. And by the way, it's pretty easy to go get a test. You can look, I think it's around 50 to 70 nanomolars. You can look it up. There's a range and you can go get a simple blood test and it'll tell you what your range is. Interesting enough, homeless people, they haven't had any of these issues with COVID. You know why? Because relatively much less. Most of the time they're outside. They're getting a lot of that vitamin D, and vitamin D gets stored. And in the wintertime, they seem to be better than most of us who are not getting it. Homeschoolers learn the true history of America. Betsy Weisner. Look, I learned some of my best stuff, you could say, through individuals homeschooling, landscaping, carpentry, painting, calculus, mathematics. From my father and I would sit until 2, 3 in the morning doing math problems. I had great teachers, but I learned it ultimately from one-on-one interactions. Ultimately, what they're saying is they want to have mandated vaccination and mandated indoctrination, all standardized. They don't want people to learn in their own way. How do we start a petition against the vaccine? Look, what we need to do is we need to eliminate the vaccine mandates, and we need to give choice to people. That's what this is about. So Rashmana Johnson is saying that. I don't know where Rashmana is from, but one of the bills that I proposed, which is up on our website, is called the Health Rights Act, which says that we need to devolve power back to people. It shouldn't be centralized, top-down medicine. Jen Bennett, I'm in Vermont. You should friend me. There's too many Jen Bennett's if I search you, but only one Linda politician or something, it's saying. All right, one Linda Politi. Let me see what's on Instagram. And let's see, we need your comments and support about 5G. Homeschooling is good. What do you, herd immunity, what is it? Oh, okay, someone's asking what is herd immunity, Health Rights Act. So let me answer that. So one was about 5G. One was about what is herd immunity. Stay off. I'm not going, by the way, just to be clear, I'll come back to herd immunity. Let me write this down. 5G, herd immunity. Look, since I started doing these educational videos and they started going viral, I've been asked by so many people to come on their shows. And so I had to really step back and understand this. It's like, when your stuff gets out there, you get popular, there's always this thing you think, oh my God, I should go here, and get more and more views, right? And this is what's called the celebrity Hollywood culture, which I frankly despise, because it's not real. It's about becoming relevant. It's not about being real. So when my videos went viral, I think we've been inundated with probably 7,000 to 10,000 different interviews. An organization called London Real called me, and I was going to do it. And then they started doing advertising, false advertising, packaging me with Bobby Kennedy and one of his proxies, who as I've shared, are the not so obvious establishment. Bobby Kennedy endorsed Hillary Clinton, Miss Vaccine Queen. He attacks Bill Gates, but he doesn't say anything. This is a not so obvious establishment. And this gentleman, I spoke to him, I said, look, I can't be going on a show where you're putting us together. I'm not part of his camp. And then I was thinking about doing it, and I decided in my gut, I said, I can't do it because so many people were putting me in there. And I realized that this was all about views, views, views. I'm not into views, views, views. I'm into education and knowledge and winning a revolutionary battle for truth, freedom, and health. And those people, some people are out there. We did a very nice video with a chiropractor. He has about 50,000 followers, but a great man. He's really into truth, freedom, and health. Then you have people who are calling me Valuetainment Media. They wanted me to be, I'll get you 10 million views. It's not about views. It's about building a movement. So what we've created now is we have a new press model. All these people are starting their little channels. I want to get so many views. What we want to do is we want to create a movement for truth, freedom, and health. And that can only come through education and knowledge. And that's what I'll keep doing right here. So I'm not going to be doing any of these big interviews because I'm very, very circumspect, which means cautious, about people who just are doing stuff to get views and sell books and that. And it's not something I really am about. I'm more here about to educate. We need to win this bigger battle for truth, freedom, and health. And I think all of you listening are the press now. All of you, everyone gets it out, bottoms up. We don't need, again, one big guy, Joe Rogan or whoever the hell it is. They get all the views and I have to go over there and beg to them. That's not what it's about. This is about all of us sharing content, this kind of content. That's how we win. Bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up. I'll commit, at least to do 2 videos, very solid videos. It takes a lot of effort. I have to run my companies. I have to run for US Senate. But this is my noble service, because the more I can share this knowledge and you can learn, teach, and serve, that's bottoms up. So someone who said, yeah, no, I'm not going on London Real. I had to respectfully refuse. I refuse Valuetainment. Bobby Kennedy and these guys will go out there. Yes, digital soldiers. Linda M. Cross. Awesome. I love that. Digital soldiers. Let's be digital soldiers for truth, freedom, and health. That's what we want. Digital soldiers. I'll give you the weapons. You guys go blast away. Great point, Dr. Shiva. It's not about views. It's about exactly. So it was very, very interesting because after my video started going viral, I got so many calls. And I knew ultimately, if you believe in God, that truth ultimately comes out. When I ran for US Senate last time, they were so afraid of me. These guys wouldn't even put me on the media, but I knew that God works in mysterious ways and our knowledge would get out there. So how can you help? Well, Scott Loring is asking, how can you help? Number one, go to that website, Shiva for Senate, Scott, and everyone. Take advantage of the knowledge, the system's health, your body, your system. If you want to donate, great. That's one way, because we need to buy lawn signs on the ground to support our campaign. That's one. The second thing you can do is to tell everyone in the world that you have a fighter, a warrior running for you, because Massachusetts is the center of the deep state. We must win here. Tell everyone you know in Massachusetts to vote for us. And by the way, we're going to be putting up a box soon where you can go right there and get people to pledge to vote. Right on our website, we want people to pledge to vote now, and then we'll call them up on the day of voting. Number two. Number three, Scott, is what people can do is to share this content. And all of you, as someone just said, become digital soldiers. If you want me to create certain content, let me know. I'll research it and make it. Someone else, for example, Bobby Kennedy's part of the problem. Nothing ever changes. Wake up or we'll never change. Exactly. And the fourth thing, what people need to recognize is the day that we break from the bullshitters like Bobby Kennedy, from people who are his proxies, change is going to occur like that. The history of the establishment is always to make us attached to the not so obvious establishment. They don't do anything. They are so afraid of people like me and people like you coming bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up. Digital soldiers, I love that. Down with Hillary, exactly. Hillary Clinton is a she-devil next to Bill Gates. And Bobby Kennedy endorsed her, not once, not twice, 3 times. In fact, he endorsed her after she said vaccine science is all settled. He's the bullshitter that we really got to watch out for. Truth, freedom, and health. Exactly. Truth, freedom, and health. Digital soldiers, bottoms up for truth, freedom, and health. I will create you weapons of knowledge. You guys go start firing everywhere. Tell me what weapons you want. If Kennedy supports Clinton's, that tells you something. Exactly. It says it all. There's no excuse here. We have a bunch of people saying, Shiva, why are you attacking Bobby? Bobby's done so much. Bobby's done shit. Okay, sorry. What he's done is to make you attached to him and not build a bottoms-up movement. Fire Fauci. Exactly. Let's look what we're at on Fire Fauci, because that's one of the most important things that we need to do. Get rid of Mr. Fauci. And the sooner we do that, and when we get 100,000 signatures, we're going to deliver those right to the President of the United States. That's where it's going. And if we go, let's look at how Mr. Fauci is doing. And let's see, because we have everyone working out there, getting up. Wow, we're at 80. We're almost at 90,000. Okay. Let me show you what we got here. This is really cool. We're almost at 90,000 here. I'll share this with everyone. There we go. You can see we're at 88,979. So we've gone up by almost 1,000 since we've been on here. So let's see if we can push that over to 90,000, which means we need about 1,100 more. All right. So there you go. Any other questions? Oh. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, there you go. Then we add Jen. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see what other. So let me answer 2 more questions. Let's Jen. Someone asked about 5G. So look, first of all, let's look at the big picture. We're like a bloodhound. We're almost going right after. Big pharma, and we're very close. So and if you notice that there's many issues we can go after, Monsanto, we can go after chemtrail. I mean, I don't know enough about some of the chemtrail stuff, but what I can tell you is the exposition we've been doing with Fauci has built a worldwide movement. And what we notice is sometimes the establishment will try to distract us. So a guy like Bobby Kennedy was doing water keepers. Then he did a little bit of Monsanto. Then he did vaccines. And now he's over to 5G. As a scientist, I'm going to do my research on 5G to get back to you, which we're going to be finishing up, which we're getting data on, because we have to be very careful with causation versus correlation. Causation means what I've just shared with you. You do this thing and these events occur. That's called mechanisms. Simply drawing a curve on this and drawing another curve, it opens us up to attack. But what I can tell you about 5G is 5G is clearly for the development of the surveillance state, which means everything is connected to everything else, and they can watch us, vaccinate us, etc. Now, the effect of 5G at the molecular systems level, that requires a whole bunch of research, which we're trying to understand the mechanisms. What I can tell you is many, many years ago, I did research on how electromagnetic waves affect the circadian rhythms in the body, which is called the pineal gland in the body. The pineal gland, in the ancients, they used to call it the third eye. We know that the pineal gland is a piezoelectric crystal, and that pineal gland can be affected by E and M waves. So that's the angle I'm looking at it at that. And I'm going to share with you some of that data 2 weeks from now, actually maybe earlier, in fact, end of next week. But I always want to look at mechanisms versus do this and do that. Remember, there's a lot of people out there who run anti-vax groups. It's the in thing to do. Or I'm going to run my anti-cancer group. I'm going to do this. Particularly a lot of these celebrities do this. What we want to do is we want to win. And when we have this enemy right in our crosshairs, the deep state, we should go after them and completely eliminate them in a good way to bring out truth, freedom, and health. It's very easy to fight battles on 20 different grounds. That's what I'd like to say about the 5G matter, but we're going to be sharing some data. I'm a veterinarian. FIP is a viral infection of cats that has 10% mortality rate. What is FIP? That has a 10% mortality rate. I'm sorry, I'm not aware of what that is, but it'd be very interesting to know what that is. If there's anything against COVID-19, they used to put in jail. Here, if we say, oh, yes, I've heard about that. In India, if there's anything against, what's interesting is when we went to the Prime Minister of India's website, he had actually put up some very interesting herbs and stuff, Ayurvedic herbs that were very powerful. I thought that was interesting. Someone said, what is the deep state? Trenton Sturmer. Look, the deep state is a terminology that is really used, and the words have been used in all different ways. Eisenhower called it the military-industrial academic complex. In fact, he called it the military-industrial complex. Senator William Fulbright in the 70s called it the military-industrial academic complex. It is essentially a grouping, a fraternity of individuals, names, some of them we may know, but an association of people who believe that they know better than us. They're committed to a small set of people controlling essentially large amounts of people. So the deep state, in the case that we're looking at here, it involves foundations like Hillary Clinton Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative. It involves Gates Foundation. It involves people like, the Zuckerbergs foundations. It involves the WHO, the CDC, elements of the Chinese Communist Party, and someone like Fauci. This is really part of the medical deep state establishment who wants to impose top-down mandated medicine on all of us. So you can look at the military-industrial academic complex. People want to control innovation. When the facts about that I invented email came out, who was against it? It was people at Raytheon, people in the academia, people in big industry, because they created a lie that all great inventions must only come from them. It surely could not come from a 14-year-old kid in Newark, New Jersey. Yeah, that's the deep state. Anything else? All right, well, it is getting late unless people have, herd immunity. Let me finish on that. Herd immunity is a concept that is created to tell us a measure of how many people need to be vaccinated to protect the people who are immunocompromised. Let me sort of lay this out. Let's say you got 1,000 people. Okay, this is a herd immunity concept. You got 1,000 people. Let's say 100 of them are immunocompromised. Remember those people whose immune systems are weak and shut down. Let's say you got 100 of them. The herd immunity concept says in order to protect that 100 people, because they can't be vaccinated, because a vaccine, very interesting, would affect them, would hurt them. So in order to protect them, a certain portion of the remaining 900 people need to be vaccinated, like a probability, so none of them come in touch with these people. And for different vaccines, they created different levels of herd immunity. So for example, for the measles vaccine, it started at 70%, then it went to 75, 80. Now it's at 95%. So how do we draw your attention to our comments? Okay, so what ended up happening was they decided, okay, for measles, we need to get 95% of the remaining 900 odd people vaccinated in order to protect the minority of the 100. So that's what herd immunity is. It's a measure of how much of the herd needs to be immunized to protect the immunocompromised. I hope that answered your question. Next, anything else? All right. Let me see if there's anything on Instagram that's urgent. System is broken. I've been researching this day and they have 15 years, and I'm telling you that 100% correct. Now, let's see what will happen with Bill Gates. Will he be stopped? Herd immunity can also be developed naturally. Yes. So that's a good question. So the issue is someone said herd immunity can be built naturally. Look, in traditional systems of medicine, that's how it was developed. Dr. Shiva, I'm going to make sure my friends back in Mexico City, share all your videos in the whole country and the whole planet. That's from Juan Polañez, Rock and Roll, RVJM. Yep. Look, and also please email me at vashiva@vashiva.com if you have any ideas of any videos you want me to do. So think of me as the knowledge manufacturer who's going to, give you very powerful knowledge put in these ways that anyone can understand. I think that's really the skill set that I offer to this movement. And I will make those components, and then you guys disperse them out there. But I think right now, let's fire Fauci to send a signal, 100,000 signatures we need to get. That's one of the most important things we can do. We need to make sure that, we win. We're victorious in Massachusetts, because winning in Massachusetts, I'm telling everyone, listen carefully, by winning in Massachusetts, we have to win the Republican nomination in September, and we'll be putting up something right up on our website telling people to pledge to vote for us now. So anyone listening anywhere in the world, if you know anyone in Massachusetts, tell them to go to our website and sign up to become a volunteer, support the campaign. And anyone in the world, anyone in the United States, support the campaign. Go up there, give 1, 2, 5, whatever you want to give. Get the book. If you can't afford any of the things, let me know. I'll send it out to you. It's an ebook, and because we want to share the knowledge. But anyone out there, take advantage of your body, your system. But most importantly, we must win in Massachusetts, because by winning in Massachusetts, it'll be a shot that's hurled around the world, because one of us won in the most corrupt. I'm behind enemy lines here in Massachusetts. We will have won in one of the most corrupt states in the entire country. I've been cut off 3 times. I'm not sure what cut off from what. Huh? Jen, can you tell me what he's saying? Cut off from?
Meaning Facebook censoring. So it's hard to watch your videos on Facebook.
Yeah. So look, I have an idea. It may be that I may need to go to war against Facebook and Google. Those of you, if you're overseas listening from India, for example, Facebook and Google does a lot of their development in India. I'm beloved not only here in the United States, but across. People really love the work. And I still have a lot of people in the motherland that I come from. It would be really unfortunate for Facebook if I decided to put out a call for all those software engineers to unionize and shut down Facebook and Google. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe the working people on May Day in Google and Facebook and all these people need to get organized and realize that they're working for a fascist organization. Maybe you may force me to do that. Maybe that's what we really need to do, because people like the Google heads and the people who run at Microsoft, all these people, I'm sure they exploit their own people. So maybe it's time that we built another bottoms-up workers movement, digital workers movement. And those of you listening, if you work for Facebook, if you work for Google, think about it. Think about what they're doing. And remember, they need you. So maybe we need to unionize those organizations. And maybe I'll start a movement to do that. What do you guys think? Because maybe it's good to shut down these guys from within. That's maybe what we need to do. And as you said, we need to make sure the United States Postal Service does their job. But I'm seriously thinking about the nonsense that they've been doing, trying to, someone said behind you 100%. I think that's what we may need to do. Remember, a lot of the development is done in India. And people in India listening, start telling your friends that maybe we need to organize the working people who work for YouTube, work for Facebook, because at the end of the day, there's more of us than them. Let's just forget that people power. They can own all these platforms, but people have to build the software for those platforms. And you and I know software is very buggy. What would happen if no one showed up to YouTube one day? What would happen if no one showed up to Facebook one day? What would happen if no one showed up to Google one day? Wouldn't that be unfortunate, Zuckerberg? Maybe you're forcing me to do that. Maybe you're forcing me to do that. I may just have to do that. Okay? Because you're not playing fair. You make a lot of money off other people's content. It's not your content, but you keep violating laws, spiritual laws, ethical laws. Yes, shut down Facebook, start a new platform. That's a good idea, Chris, but maybe we need to shut down them from within, because I'm sure they don't take care of their people that well. Maybe that's what we need to do. Because if Zuckerberg treats us like this, how does he treat his own people? All right, Jen, how are we doing? Keep going? Okay.
What are you on Fire Fauci?
Let's see what's on Fire Fauci. The count on Fire Fauci, let's see. We're at 89,000. Awesome. Should we get to 90? We need another 900 signatures. Hold on, let me show this here. We're at 89,000, everyone. I think, what did we go up by, Jen? Like 4,000? I think we went up by 4,000, right? Hold on. There we go.
Yes.
Yep, there we go. We're at 89,088. So we went up by, I think we're at 80. I'm sorry, we're at 87. So I think we've gone up by 2,000 on this. Listen, everyone, get everyone to Fire Fauci. Many of you know the letter I wrote to the president, as I understand, got to him. So he knows very clearly what's going on. I can guarantee you what we're doing. We need to build a movement for truth, freedom, and health. And in closing, what I want to share with you is, let's not forget that I'm running for U.S. Senate, shivaforsenate.com. Learn how your body is a system. Start learning this. This is about arming ourselves with knowledge. I was very, very fortunate, as many of you know, to learn a lot of great knowledge, through my work, growing up in India, going to school in New Jersey, coming to MIT. The knowledge I was able to amass was quite extraordinary, and then being able to integrate that. So the knowledge that I've shared with you doesn't exist anywhere, but the goal of this knowledge is to empower a systems revolution for truth, freedom, and health. That's what this is about. So we get strong. We demand the best of others. But the good news is, everyone should get excited. We're building a worldwide community here, a worldwide community for truth, freedom, and health. Let's become digital soldiers, get this content out there. Last question I'm going to take is, what is the alternative to all other platforms? Can you create one? Worldwide support, love from Australia. Sure. I have seriously been working on something that is a solution that decentralizes the platform. And I'm going to be sharing some of that with you guys in next week. I shared a part of it with you, but there is some very important ideas that I have. But it's time that we take back our communication rights. Dr. Shiva, I admire Sabita Maharaj. I admire your courage for the truth and to do what's right for the human race. God bless you, and may your truth win. Thank you. God bless all of you. Let's win. We have an amazing opportunity in 2020. The God, if you believe in God, and if you believe that each one of us was put here for a purpose, I believe we live in a very, very amazing moment in history where it's up to us, not top down, not these celebrities, not these Kennedys, not the Gates, it's us. It's time that we exercise our power as people for truth, freedom, and health. Bottoms up. That's what we need. Don't look outside, look within. And just recognize the knowledge I'm sharing with you is just, it comes through me because it's something that was given to me, not just from me, from all these people who helped me get here. So it's a great opportunity for all of us to take this knowledge out to the world and win, win, win. Anyway, I wish you all well. As I keep saying, let's be the light and win this fight. Okay? Be well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone on Instagram. I'm going to stop this here. I got to close this, close, and end the broadcast. Be well, everyone. Have a good night and good morning to other people and elsewhere.